Am I the asshole for not giving my half-siblings anything after they were left out of the will? My father divorced his first wife after she had a baby that was not his. He had 5 legitimate kids with her but did not fight for custody.
A few years later, he met my mom, had me, and we had a happy life for 53 years. I may have seen my half-siblings less than a dozen times in my whole life, mostly when I was much younger. My dad tried to help them out over the years, giving advice and lending them money when they needed it. We never lived in the same state, but I would hear of them from time to time, always through my father's disappointment in them.
He also felt some guilt for not being there for them.
Eventually, they broke his trust one too many times, and he decided to never help them out financially again.
They would occasionally call or send a birthday card, but they all eventually stopped calling.
About a year ago, my mother passed away suddenly, and then my father pretty much lost the will to live and passed away about 9 months later. Being the only child, it was a huge emotional burden for me, not to mention a logistical nightmare, but I loved them and I was happy to be able to be there for them. My half-sister came out of the woodwork and began visiting my dad at his assisted living facility, and I was appreciative of any help, even if it was a couple of weeks here and there.
Aside from her, no one else came to visit.
After he passed, I learned through his will that I was the sole inheritor of his humble estate. It was actually supposed to go to my mom and then to me if she was no longer living, but since she had already passed, it all went to me. His other children were not mentioned in the will. About 2 months later, as I was trying to deal with probate, I got a call from one of the siblings saying they were going to challenge the will in court and sue me if they didn't get their fair share.
They claimed that my dad had promised them things over the years. I told them that while I knew it hurt not to be mentioned in the will, there was nothing I could do about it. I didn't write the will.
One of them even suggested that I influenced him while he had dementia.
I tried to be understanding, knowing that they lost their father too, but this went on for months. At one point, just to push things along, I said that I would think about sending them some things, but I needed to get through probate first. They finally relented once they realized they had no case. I am finally through probate, but they've left such a bad taste in my mouth that I don't want to give them anything. I'd rather just donate the items they wanted. They don't even want the items because they mean anything to them. It's things they think they can sell for money.
So, am I the asshole if I don't give them anything?
Not the asshole.
It's telling that you only hear from them after your father's death, and it's only about money.
Not the asshole. Your father's will should be executed as he wished. However, I have immense empathy for the children he withheld affection from and punished for his first wife's affair. They grew up knowing they had a father who didn't fight to be a part of their lives, who viewed them as disappointments, and who preferred his new family. None of that is your fault, of course, those were his actions.
But his actions and attitude toward his 5 older children is certainly hurtful to them.
Not the asshole for your specific question. I'm sorry they're coming at you like this.
This isn't about you. However, I hope you can understand why they're hurt and feel once again abandoned by the father who didn't fight for them as children and viewed them as disappointments.
Your dad is the asshole here.
Your father is a huge but this isn't your responsibility.
Well, your dad is definitely an asshole for abandoning his first 5 kids. But you're not the asshole for following his will. You are the asshole, you and your father.
You are an because you have no empathy whatsoever for 5 people that were abandoned as children by a father who then went on to give you a lovely stable life well into adulthood. You can love your father and appreciate what you were given while still acknowledging that it is hideously evil to punish your own children for the deeds of others, and any disappointments that your siblings ever caused him were most likely downstream of his failures as a man and human being. I don't think I need to explain further why your father was a bad person, even if he did give you, and only you, a comfortable life, and chose to continue that favoritism into the grave. Sometimes someone can be nice to you individually and still be wicked.
Am I the asshole for not accepting our blended family?
I, 15F, have a blended family.
My dad remarried 3 years ago to my stepmom, who has a daughter.
However, my stepsister, Lena, is 28F, and has 2 kids around my siblings' age.
I've met her a grand total of 5 times in the past 3 years.
My siblings are thrilled to call her their sister, and they even call her their favorite older sister, which really pisses me off considering that they barely know her and I've done so much for them over the years, especially during the divorce and my mom's time in rehab. Well, anyways, the other night we were at a neighborhood party and I was making small talk with some of the neighborhood moms. I have a babysitting business, so it's a good time to meet the moms and their kids, and my dad overheard me telling them that I have 2 siblings, name 10F, and name 6M. He didn't say anything in the moment, but when we got home he told me I was selfish and stubborn for not accepting our blended family and that I was threatening my siblings' bonds with Lena by not setting a good example by calling her my sister.
I replied in an apathetic way saying, I have 2 siblings, not 3, and then I turned around and went to my room. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. You don't have to consider her a sister.
But maybe also talk to your father and your younger siblings about how them calling Lena, their favorite, makes you feel. You don't have to have a relationship with Lena, but don't let jealousy and resentment destroy the bond you have with your younger siblings.
Not the asshole.
This is an age-old issue and your dad and SM are Oz for being oblivious to your feelings.
I'm sorry. Hopefully when you turn 18 you can get out. Sorry about the alienation of your younger sibs. They're being manipulated and it's not their fault.
Don't blame them. They are children playing an adult game.
All they want is peace after being from a broken home.
They'll do whatever it takes to make things seem normal.
Edit for typo. Info.
It's fine that you don't consider her a sister.
But you need to let it go that your siblings feel differently.
They have room in their heart for everyone. Have you tried to dictate these feelings or voiced often how you don't consider your stepsister family?
Not the asshole. He told me I was selfish and stubborn for not accepting our blended family.
His blended family.
His choice.
Not setting a good example by calling her my sister.
She isn't. Not the asshole. You have known her 3 years and have been in her presence a handful of times.
Your dad needs to back off, like now.
You have a sister who is, at least biologically, old enough to be your mother, probably legally in Kentucky, but that's a different story.
Your dad married into that family.
You did not.
Rightfully, you didn't have a say in it, but it's wrong of your father to try to force the issue.
You've set a boundary,
granted partly based on jealousy and bitterness about being supplanted as the oldest sister, but a boundary that's yours to set.
Dad needs to respect that.
There's time enough in the future to establish a relationship with your stepsister if the two of you want that.
Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for asking my social worker to let me live with my grandma instead of my aunt? My mom lost custody of me 3 years ago. She's always had issues and she's been in jail a few times. I, 15 male, have no dad in my life, so I'd go to my aunt typically until my mom got out and took me back. But then she lost custody of me for real and my aunt took me in. My aunt was going through her own really difficult time. My uncle, her husband, died, and she was left alone with her son, 10.
A few months later she met a guy called James and they hit it off and ended up moving in together and getting married by the end of that same year. They met in February.
James has a daughter, 11.
James's ex had divorced him a few years before and wasn't around their daughter.
She didn't remember her mom and was feeling mixed about the blended family.
Sometimes she really wanted a mom and other times she didn't want to have a new mom or share her dad with my cousin.
The 2 kids could not get along and living with them was miserable.
My cousin misses his dad so much and he's angry that his mom married again so fast. He was mad that James's daughter was sometimes calling his mom, Mom, and other times telling her she's not her mom and to go away.
He was angry James was trying to do stuff for him that his dad used to do. Take him hiking, Father's Day events and stuff. It was such a mess and I was miserable being in the middle of all that.
They were in therapy and everyone came back from that so unhappy.
In the end I was talking to my social worker and I asked if I could live with my grandma instead.
Grandma said yes.
She was so happy. I moved in with her last week. But my aunt was so hurt I did that and my cousin misses me. He asked if he could live with me and grandma too. He told grandma he doesn't want to live with James or Katie, James's daughter, anymore and he'd be way happier with her and me. My aunt was even more devastated by this. She told my cousin he still had her and he told her he didn't want James or Katie and he couldn't have her without them. They ended up talking and he told her he wished James and Katie would go away forever and never come back. I think some of my aunt's anger came from that and was directed at me over my cousin. But it made her get super pissed that I had asked to leave. She said she was always there for me and why did I want so badly to leave and stuff. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. It is normal to want stability in your life after everything you had been through. Your aunt may be hurt, but she should try to see this choice from your point of view, and if she cannot, that is even more reason to stay with your grandma. She said she was always there for me. Until she brought a new guy with baggage and chaos into the home. Not the asshole. You have a lot going on and it's totally okay to want to escape the chaos. At 15, recognizing what you need and asking for it is pretty mature. Good for you. Tell your aunt how much you appreciate all she's done for you. But that with all the stress everyone is under trying to blend the family, you felt it would be better for all involved, including yourself, to remove yourself from the situation. Your cousin is kinda being an but it sounds like he's even younger than you, at an age where being the kind of asshole he's being is pretty normal. Not the asshole, sweetheart. You're 15 years old and dealt with more adversity than some people do in a lifetime. Your aunt's dysfunctional blended family isn't your problem. You don't deserve to be her scapegoat. She's an adult, she needs to sort out her own problems and accept the consequences of her decisions. Your cousin is young and unhappy. He misses his father. In his mind, if the new husband and his daughter go away, his father will come home, which has nothing to do with where you live and with whom. You deserve to live a happy life with someone who makes you feel loved, safe and secure, and you have that with your grandmother. Aunt, I appreciate all you have done for me, and you're right that you've always been here for me. However, you have a lot going on right now with the loss of Uncle X and the blending of your new family. I don't feel like it would be right for me to add on to that, and staying with grandma will take some of the load off your plate. You need to focus on, cousin, and your husband and his daughter right now, and I don't want to bring more stress. I love you, and I'm sorry for the hurt that my leaving has caused, but you can't take everything on at once. Not the asshole, something like the above might be helpful. I'm sorry that your family is in such a chaotic state. Not the asshole. You've been through so much already. You now need peace and stability. You'll find it with your grandma. Your aunt needs to get her family into therapy in order to learn to live together. Am I the asshole for not allowing my mother to stay with us when I go into labor? I am expecting our second baby in August. Since we don't have any family nearby, we've arranged for our oldest child to stay with a friend when I go into labor. My mom, who lives 5 hours away, has taken 2 weeks off work around my due date in the following period. I was unaware of her specific plans until she announced she would be staying at our house. She knows we value our privacy and prefer not to have guests due to limited space and my partner's irregular, unsociable work hours. We recently moved to a larger house, but the spare bedroom is now the baby's nursery, fully furnished and decorated, with no room for even a single blow-up bed. My mom believes that because we have more space, she is entitled to stay with us. I struggle to spend more than a night with my mom due to her narcissistic and manipulative behavior, which I've endured my whole life. When we visit her, it's usually a short stay. I don't want her around constantly after I give birth. So, am I the asshole or not allowing her to stay with us and expecting her to book a B&B or hotel? We don't need her here for the birth as we have other plans for our eldest. She's coming because she wants to. I am sure regardless of how I say it, she will blow it out of proportion. Not the asshole, okay, but can't you just tell her no? You're obviously not an asshole, but it is kind of ridiculous that your mom told you this and you need internet strangers to tell you that you can tell her no. Not the asshole. Hold that boundary. Make sure you put it in a text. Mom, we will not be hosting you or anyone else in our home before, during or after the birth, and be prepared to enforce it when she shows up saying she doesn't remember you saying anything of the sort. You then screenshot the text, her response, and send it to her. Not the asshole. Do not bring any stress upon yourself when that baby arrives. Your mom can't improve her personality for the sake of your relationship with her, so she can't stay with you. She took time off work without telling you and invited herself to stay with you, so I'd go even further and tell her not to bother booking a room because she will not be allowed in the house. If you don't stand your ground, she will never improve. Not the asshole. If you don't even need her there at all, then she doesn't need to be there at all. Tell her, no, be firm. The way she's treated you and her narcissistic and manipulative behavior,
Means you can tell her not to come at all and you should have nothing to feel bad about.
She is the only asshole here. She will blow it out of proportion. Too bad for her.
If it were me, I would at least go low contact with her. And definitely not let her hang around for 2 weeks, whether she's at a hotel or not.
Not the asshole. Tell her you wish she would have talked to you guys first because you had decided not to allow visitors during that time frame. Not the asshole. You are setting a reasonable boundary. Tell her she will have to stay somewhere else, and she can only visit when invited.